Hello, my name is Tim Seiler, and I played Cassius at the American Shakespeare Center in Stanton, Virginia in 2016.
Hi, I'm David Lee Huynh. I played Cassius and Julius Caesar for the Houston Shakespeare Festival in their 2019 season.
So we performed in the Blackfriars Playhouse, which is the world's only recreation of Shakespeare's indoor space. It's this wonderful, intimate, wooden building that has these chandeliers where candles would sit on and light both the audience and the stage. So it's the same lighting source, much like the sun is for the globe.
We performed our production in the Miller Outdoor Theater, and it's one of my favorite theaters to perform in the world because it is enormous.
And that means that we can see the audience all the time and they can see us, and we all kind of know that we can see each other, which means that the audience essentially they become characters in the play. And it's great for one like Julius Caesar, where they're Roman citizens, they're soldiers, they're part of the mob. And we might take some text to them, we might give them a wink when appropriate. It's a really fun, almost improvisational experiment.
Literally thousands of people came to see our shows each night. And so when you step on stage as an actor, you feel like you're stepping into a football stadium and sending your energy out.
And that's how it would have been done back in Shakespeare's day. There's room for about 300 people, and they're on two levels, and it's a thrust configuration. So audiences surround three sides of the stage.
It's kind of a one-of-a-kind space.
And there's really not a bad seat in the house, and you're pretty close to the action, and it's a fun party.
Our production was modern dress, but the costumes were done in a way that helped differentiate things and let the audience kind of glom onto ideas really quickly.
We did this in a traditional Elizabethan dress with beautiful, rich jewel tones, some earth tones, leather armor, a few little Roman accents, which is what we suspect some of that costuming design has. There's mention of some anachronistic costuming, I think in Julius Caesar, if not other plays. And then the audience fills the rest in with their imagination.
Since the performers were in such a large space and people were sitting all the way back on the hill, like 100 feet back, 150 feet back, you needed costumes that would show, oh, the green one is Cassius, the blue one is Brutus, the dude in all white is Julius Caesar.
We have two doors on the side, and then a center, what's called a discovery space, that they're curtains and that they can swing out and reveal people. And then there's a balcony above, that's where the balcony scene happens in Romeo and Juliet. That's where Antony and Brutus speak for the funeral orations.
And then there were also things that helped give it a feel that was unique to Houston. There were oil derricks and some of the lighting effects, so whenever like the lights projected onto the stage, you could see oil derricks.
These scenes move in and out very, very quickly to all different kinds of locations, and so you're not spending a lot of time looking at set changes, which is nice for a really swift experience.
There were details on our suit jackets that suggested like Mexican-inspired costume design. And I'm really happy to say that the cast itself also reflected a lot of the diversity that is inherent in Houston, Texas.
So how do we get to this speech? Why, man, he doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus.
What I really love about this play is that it deals with the intersections of ambition and honor. So on the one hand, you have Brutus, who is stalwart figure of Rome, who is this poster boy of Roman ideals, who's held up above the senators on a moral ground. And then you have Cassius, who is known to be very hot-tempered and very ambitious.
The crowd that's off in the background has been hollering and cheering for Caesar.
There's this free radical named Julius Caesar who's just come back from a glorious military conquest in the name of Rome and is being seen as a hero.
And it's happened twice by now.
And now there are whispers of making him emperor, and that's a huge issue.
Cassius is trying to sort of take Brutus's temperature in regards to Caesar and the nightmare hellscape that Cassius believes Rome is suffering.
Because they're all supposed to be senators. And if one upstart gets the jump on them, it jeopardizes everything. And for Cassius, jeopardizing everything is one thing. For Brutus, it's another. But their common interest lies in getting rid of Julius Caesar. Cassius knows this.
When the crowd cheers for a second time, Brutus says something along the lines of, "I fear these are some new honors heaped on Caesar." And then it's the spark that just ignites Cassius as he sort of just explodes into this wonderful Colossus imagery, and it takes us all the way through to the end of the scene.
And now's the time that he can act on stalwart Brutus.
It's pretty great.
There's a question that I like to call the Passover question. Why is this moment being included in the play? And this is the piece that is so integral to Cassius's plan to protect his state and protect Rome.
Cassius is really fun. He's supremely dramatic. When things are going well for him, they're at a 10. They're beyond that. It's so ecstatic for him. And when things are rough, they're in the deepest pit of hell for Cassius. And he sees this so clearly, and I think a frustration, a major obstacle for him is that no one else sort of sees the world in that stark black and white sort of way.
If Brutus doesn't join, there is no conspiracy. If they go forward without him, history will see them as bloodthirsty, ambitious men that shanked a fellow senator who was beloved by everyone in Rome. Caesar is like a rock star. But if they have Brutus, they can spin it as this was a necessary task to protect the Republic of Rome.
I think he loves to paint these sensational pictures, which he doesn't believe are sensational, but I think he needs to try to communicate just how awful, how nightmarish, how hellish things are, which is what he does in this speech a little bit.
So everything hinges on this scene.
It's not going to work to talk about the nightmares that Caesar is, because Caesar's one of Brutus's great friends. But if I can sort of approach this from a logical, rational standpoint, I might get through to him, especially if I start playing the honor card, the legacy that our forefathers, that our family has paved for this republic.
Cassius's future post whatever they do to Caesar lies in Brutus. And the cool thing during the monologue is Cassius acts on it because it's like the best time to do it. All these people are screaming, "Caesar!" celebrating Caesar!
There are moments where the language seems to shift gears, like Cassius bumps into something that means that he has to take a different course.
And he can sniff out that Brutus is not okay with that.
But if it can be sort of an appeal to reason, especially for a character like Brutus, that's going to get under his skin better.
And as he works Brutus, the cracks begin to show in Brutus's facade, and he really just gets in there and finds the final piece that makes his plan able to work. Cassius wins this scene. It's a huge victory for him.
The end of this scene cements a partnership between Brutus and Cassius, and it makes an even stronger one than before. And that creates this ecstatic hope that Cassius has for the assassination and for saving Rome.
Getting stalwart Brutus to question and wonder what if ultimately leads them down the path of assassination.
And that creates these like really wonderful sets of expectations that Brutus will heed Cassius's advice.
And from then on, Cassius and Brutus are linked. They've assassinated Caesar.
The marvel of the play, though, is that I don't think at any point does Brutus listen to Cassius in that way ever again. Cassius advises and has strategy and policy that would help move and make this dream a reality, and Brutus doesn't heed that advice, and it results in disaster, and it keeps building and building.
And when things go south, unfortunately, again, they're very different people. They operate very differently. But because of what they've begun together, their fates are tied.
If anyone's playing Brutus or Cassius, or if you're just studying this play, look to all the times that Cassius says, I think you might want to do this. I don't think Antony should speak to the people after Caesar dies. I think we should really make a spectacle of this. I think this is what our military policy should be. Brutus shuts it down all the time, and that keeps accumulating until it explodes in the tent scene later on, which is so awesome.
Unfortunately for them, the Battle of Philippi goes one way.
This scene, this speech, creates a foundation of trust, of collaboration that I don't think is ever met ever again in the play, which is part of the tragedy.
But we're still exploring this story thousands of years later because it's a really good one.
That's the juicy stuff of drama.
Why, man, he doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus. And we, petty men, walk under his huge legs and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves. Men at some time are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves that we are underlings. Brutus and Caesar. What should be in that Caesar? Why should his name be sounded more than yours? Write them together. Yours is a fair name. Sound them, it doth become the mouth as well. Weigh them, it is as heavy. Conjure with them. Brutus will start a spirit as soon as Caesar. Now in the names of all the gods at once, upon what meat did this our Caesar feed that he is grown so great? Age, thou art shamed. Oh, you and I have heard our fathers say there was a Brutus once that would have brooked the eternal devil to keep his state as easily as a king.
Why, man, he doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus. And we petty men walk under his huge legs and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves. Men at some time are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves that we are underlings. Brutus and Caesar. What should be in that Caesar? Why should that name be sounded more than yours? Write them together. Yours is as fair a name. Sound them, it doth become the mouth as well. Weigh them, it is as heavy. Conjure with them. Brutus will start a spirit as soon as Caesar. Now, in the names of all the gods at once, upon what meat did this our Caesar feed that he has grown so great? Age, thou art shamed! Rome, thou hast lost the breed of noble bloods. When could they say, till now, that talked of Rome, that her wide walls encompassed but one man? Now is it Rome indeed, and room enough when there is in it but one only man. You and I have heard our fathers say, There was a Brutus once that would have brooked the eternal devil to keep his state in Rome as easily as a king.
That's a mighty beard, my friend. You are working that beard, and I'm quite envious.
David, it was so good to see you, hear your voice, see your work. I miss you, buddy.
What I love about this speech is that you're so muscular in the way that you approach the language. Approaching isn't even right. Your Cassius attacks the language.
Right off the bat, you started so slyly, so it's like you were offering this decadent dish to Brutus. And I mean, it's not against the language, but you're making it an ironic choice, which I think is really fitting for Brutus.
I think it does two things. It indicates a great deal about this character and the way that he forms his thoughts and uses his language and uses his thoughts as like ways to like start an offensive for what he wants to fight for and what he wants to sway people to.
You're laying this Colossus imagery as an enticing thing. And to go along with this sort of platter dinner image, that it's poisoned, but that you have the antidote for it. Does that make sense? And so I just thought that was just such an interesting way to begin that's very kind of seductive. I also heard marvelously you lingering on the S sounds in the speech. And you took your time, you stretched them. I mean, it's snake-like, which is really cool.
But then also, I think you make it seem like a moral imperative to do something against Caesar. And I totally think that Brutus has a hero complex, and your Cassius is very knowingly playing off that. So I love that character choice.
The other thing that I heard very clearly was all of the words that dealt with honor or shame. And all of this is building to the fact that this Cassius knows what's going to work on Brutus best. He's really seizing and working with his audience in a really great way. And Brutus can't help but choose to go along with this assassination plot, which I think is wonderful.
On a physical level, I just love that, like, I felt like you were going in and kind of down a lot, which felt like you were trying to dig into him.
And when you start in a kind of quieter, sly mode, you have somewhere to go, which is so fun, because the power and the muscularity comes through totally. I mean, it has to with this language. And so, yeah, I think if I ever revisit this again, I wonder what sort of fox-like, slick, composed, rational elements of Cassius can be mined in addition to this sort of unhinged, impulsive, what have you, that is my gut reaction to it.
I wish I could see it in context with a Brutus playing with you in the space and reacting to your language, because I just feel like you're setting up Brutus to be such an obstacle that you have to be fast, you have to be aggressive, you have to dig under, you have to think around things. You have to be on a level that is far above the average human being's tempo rhythm. Yeah, it's really good, man.
So I just think that can create such a dynamic performance. It also helps and is part of the collaboration that you did, I imagine, with this particular production that you were a part of, where you see this costume change, where you're donning a suit that fits well, looks really good, and that helps affirm the world that you're a part of, and that you're good at your job, and that you're a master strategist. So it's all working really well together.
I am looking forward to seeing you work when all this blows over.
Bravo.
Next!